way, and it's that time again. It's Wednesday at 2 p.m., and we are live on www.letgoradio.net and also Facebook Live. Yes, it is time for My CP Does Not Define Me, as my voice cracks ever so lovely right across the airwaves, and everyone enjoys the madness. Hey, JP Jackson in the house. Big Nikki, what's going on, Miss Nikki? I am here for episode number 8, and I've been looking forward to this episode because episode 6 with this young lady was so phenomenal. For part 1, I have Jaime in the house from Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. What's happening, Jaime?
Hey, DJ. Glad to be back. It's going pretty well.
Gosh, we got 2 in a row. Not 2 in a row, but pretty close, man. I'm telling you. Hey, Big Josh, what's going on, brother? What's going on? Oh, Miss Wilson in the house. Everybody's joined. We're here for part 2 with Jaime of Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. I always want to say CP to shorten it. I know it's Cerebral Palsy Sunrise, but I always want to say CP to shorten it. Hope everybody is.
Everybody knows what you mean. It's all good.
Hope everybody is having a phenomenal day and has had a phenomenal Memorial Day weekend. I've done cooked myself out. I can't cook no more. I cook tater salad and fried chicken and spaghetti, and I got steaks I'm cooking tonight. I don't want to cook no more. I'm losing it all. My goodness. Woo. I hear you had some barbecue over Memorial Day there, Jaime. How was it?
Oh, it was delicious as always. Never met barbecue I didn't enjoy.
Ah, man, I tell you, when you eat pulled pork, things just happen. It makes your stomach go wee, and you just get really happy really fast. So we'll just.
That is true. It's quite the recreational meal for sure.
Yep, you get to bathe it in barbecue sauce, and there's nothing wrong with anything bathed in barbecue sauce. I sure did, Miss Nikki. Big Nikki, what's going on? What's going on? All right, so I'm going to go over just a couple of things that I wanted to cover real quick. We have a couple of things coming up. I've got my COVID concert coming up, COVID-19 concert coming up on this Saturday at 2:30 live on Facebook from 2:30 till whenever all the songs are done. Going to put on a performance for everybody and hope everybody will tune in. That actually will be on Facebook Live on Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. So I will be able to do that there. I'm super excited about that. So we're going to have a lovely time, and Miss Jaime has given me permission to do so. I'm super thankful that she has. So we're going to take advantage of that and be live on Cerebral Palsy Sunrise and do a great concert for you guys. Maggie came in and said, "Am I the 9th caller?" No, you're caller number 8, but we appreciate you playing. All right, so we've got that coming up. We've got a lot of things coming up, actually. I officially start with Jack Dart next month, and I'm super excited about that in martial arts. Been waiting for that to come up, so we're going to get to training and get to going. Just wanted to, let all you guys know, and for my last show, I want to do a huge shout-out. The last show I had is almost 1,500 views now. I want to thank everybody that tuned in last week. It was a phenomenal show. And thank you guys for your comments and prayers and concerns and emails and texts and messages. Guys have been blowing my phone up all week long. Thank you so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. It means an awful lot to me. And every time we get views like that and questions like that and reactions like that, it makes me feel so good. And it makes the show so much better, because that is what I like to call audience participation. So, man, I tell you what, we're going to have a good one today. But, all right, so I have got 15 of the hard-hitting questions for Miss Jaime. I told her these were going to be the harder ones because we got through the first episode, and she said she was ready to go, and I couldn't stump her. But we're going to try this week. You ready, Jaime?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So the first question we've got today for you is, now, how did you and Kahlan meet, and what was his first reaction to you having cerebral palsy?
Sure. So we actually met via online dating, Match.com, and we had, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 conversations over the phone before we went on our first date. And so probably about the third conversation, I broached that I had cerebral palsy, and he informed me that he had a daughter with spina bifida. So that kind of broke the ice there. And then we met at a restaurant on the beach in a town called Mexico Beach, about halfway for both of us between where we were living at the time. And we had our first date, and that was pretty much it. He really didn't have too much of a reaction or questions or anything. He kind of already knew. I said, whatever questions you do have, please feel free to let me know. But since he had a disabled person already in his immediate family, it kind of made it pretty easy.
Right.
Anything that he wasn't already used to.
Right. So he could relate and, kind of understood how to broach the issues with you right off the bat.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was it love at first sight, or was it a date pretty good? Were you like, this could go somewhere?
The truth is, the first date was excellent. It was a good date, but he was still pretty fresh out of his divorce, so I wasn't sure if he was really ready to start dating or not. So I actually didn't go out on a second date with him for a while. We stayed in contact and we still chatted and stuff, but I didn't actually go on a second date with him until probably about 3 or 4 months later. And then we went on a second date and a third date, and the rest is history.
Ah, that's awesome. So you guys hit it pretty quick, got together pretty quick. That's awesome. Just, if you will, for our viewers that are just coming in, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do so we can, kind of refamiliarize everybody with what's going on.
Sure. So my day job is I work for a software company that does data and analytics for online programs. So when you see a college or a university or a corporation that has an online program, I work in that field. And in my spare time, I am the founder and organizer of a Facebook group for adults with CP called Cerebral Palsy Sunrise.
Okay. All right. And what type of CP do you have, Jamie?
So I have just your typical garden variety spastic CP. I'm technically considered a quad, but my legs are impacted more than my arms. And I do have some balance issues, which apparently about 1 in 8 of us have. So I do have some issues with balance and depth perception. But I just have your standard garden variety spastic CP.
Okay. And I think you told us last time on our first part of the interview that you use a walker primarily. You use a chair for long distances, but a walker primarily.
Yeah. So I am able to pretty much do everything I need to do inside of my home independently, but when I go out in public, I use a triangle walker that's got 3 wheels. It's very aerodynamic. It's made by Nova, and it basically just gives me stability for balance and also kind of puts a barrier between myself and the outside world so that nobody can unintentionally knock me over. Okay,
that's kind of always good to be safe, especially in our day and times now. Guys, as we go through, if you have, hey, Jody, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Jeremiah, thank you for joining in. Michael, thank you for joining. If you've got questions for Jamie as we go through, feel free to ask them. We will definitely get to them as soon as we can if we're not in the middle of a question already. All right, so we went over how you and Keelan met. And so do you have any children?
I do not have any children of my own. Keelan has 2 daughters from his first marriage, and they are both in their 20s, and they are my stepdaughters. And I have fur babies. I have 2 dogs and a bunch of fish.
So, and your doggies are the Miyorki and the Shih Tzu, correct?
That is correct. Yep, they're small but mighty. I've got a Morkie and a Shih Tzu.
And it's Monty and Ruby. And
You got it. That is right.
Yep. I work with Miss Jamie a lot, so I know her fur baby. I get all like ooey gooey when she brings them up because I get like all super happy. Make me smile. Now this is one of the questions, and I wanted to ask this the last interview, but again we ran out of time, so I decided to do a part 2 here. Did you and Kahlan want to have more children?
No.
Okay.
In fact, that was one of the reasons why I waited until I was 35 to get married. I made the choice a long time ago to not be a parent. So I wanted to make sure that if I did get married, it was to someone who either also didn't have a desire to parent or had already done it. And so luckily for me, Kahlan became a father at a very young age. So he had already had that experience and was good to go.
Did CP impact that decision, or was that just a personal decision that you came to?
Absolutely. CP impacted that decision 100%. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you.
Okay.
And just because I could, based on the feedback I had gotten from my doctors and physical therapists, it was going to be quite a journey.
Wow.
And there was a possibility of undoing a lot of what had been done to provide with mobility, right? Or a possibility of having to redo some of it.
I see.
And so I just decided for me that being an auntie was good enough, and that I was good with that. I wouldn't have ruled out adoption had I found somebody that I wanted to be with earlier, but Kahlan and I do have an 11-year age difference, and so when we got together, we decided that we just were good with the family that we had and didn't start over. That's
an awesome way to answer that. I love how real that was, and I love what you said, that just because you can do something doesn't mean that it's right for you. I love the way that you actually answered that. That's a heck of an answer. JP actually has a question. He says, what challenges do you face caring for another person having a disability while managing your own challenges?
Well, because she is a young adult and out on her own, not really anything there. I think if anything, we possibly share a little bit of kinship because she has some experiences that I can help her with or relate to. But it doesn't really impact me on the daily because she's a independent 20-something. So she's good to go all on her own. Awesome.
So I hope that answered that, JP, and we can move forward. Actually, Nikki wanted to know. I think you have a birthday this month, right? I
do. I have a birthday next month on the 15th. I am turning the big 4-0.
Actually, okay, so it's June 15th. I thought it was in May for some reason. Let's see. Yeah, next month on. Okay, so and Jody actually answered that for Nikki. So that was cool. Thank you, Miss Jody. Jody works on all facets. Now we were talking about TV series that you like on CP on Cerebral Palsy Sunrise on our last live, and you actually brought up the TV show Speechless about we talked about Speechless a little bit, and I said the person that plays the actor with CP in that actually does not have cerebral palsy, and I just wanted to get your answer. And how do you feel about a person playing the part as an actor with CP that doesn't have it?
Well, there are a lot of acting professionals out there with CP. I would prefer that they select one of those. But I would rather the story be told than not at all. So my preference would be that they give the opportunity to a truly disabled actor, but at the end of the day, it's not going to keep me from watching it, because obviously people with disabilities do need to be represented, and I would rather the story be told than not at all. So that's kind of where I am on that.
Awesome. My journey to that, and I kind of, CP is an experience that I believe you can't fake. And I don't want to say that to sound disrespectful or rude. Hey, Miss Riley, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. But I want people to see CP for actually what it is, and not an actor portrayal, because there are things that you get with CP, as in realism, that you can't act. I mean, it's, you know, a spasm is a spasm, and it hurts an individual in a way that you can't act about, because it's a real thing. And I feel that when they have an actor to portray it, they're taking away the I guess realism of CP by making someone seem like they have it when they don't. What do you think about that? I mean, do you see where I'm coming from on that? I mean, you don't have to agree with it. I just kind of want to get your thoughts.
I do, but you know, it doesn't really ruffle my feathers. I think that you know, can't really control that. It would be better if they allowed people with the actual disability to portray them, but it would be unfair to say that someone couldn't study that role of a person with CP and learn it as well as they could a famous person in history, or you know, anyone else that they might be portraying.
Okay.
You know, their job is to tell the story.
Right.
So, you know, I think it could be better served by being a disabled person. But,
sure.
I'm not gonna get upset or put off by someone portraying someone with CP. I would rather it be. I think it's more powerful.
Right. That's where I'm coming from exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but it, you know, it doesn't bother me. Again, I would rather the story be told than not at all.
Well, and I think, you know, not to cut you off there, I think the authentication is where I was looking at, to show the realism of it, so that people can actually see what's going on, and not just a thought of, oh, this is what happens when a person has CP. So yeah, I do see where you're coming from on that, though, too. I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it, but I would like to see the real portrayal instead of an actor portrayal.
Yeah.
Yep. JP actually said there's a kid on 911 on Fox that does have CP. His name is Gavin McHugh, I think is how you would pronounce that. So yeah, that's you know, again, I love to have as real as you can. Now, you mentioned and I wanted, this is kind of a biggie for me. I've had 9 surgeries, actually 10, with my cerebral palsy through my 39 years of getting ready to turn 39, actually, of cerebral palsy. Have you had a lot of surgeries, Jamie?
I have.
Okay. How many approximately have you had?
Well, my doctor was always of the opinion that if I was going to have procedures, it was best to knock out as many of them as we could at one time. So I've had as many as 8 or 9 procedures, but it's been over the course of about 5 operations.
Okay.
Because some of the times I had more than one thing done at once.
Right. See, with me, and a lot, I don't know, I think a lot of people suffer this. Doctors now, they want to do the surgeries it seems they want to do the surgeries now once they've finished growing. They want to let them grow first, all the way up, you know, if they can, if it's avoidable to have the surgery, you know, when they're 18 and their bones have finished growing, a lot of doctors will think now that they have a better approach to help themselves more once they've grown all the way. Did any of your physicians have that approach, or did they want to do them and get them out of the way?
No, actually, it was quite the opposite. They wanted to make sure that a lot of the things that I had done were completed before my growth plates closed.
Mm-hmm,
so pretty much everything that I had done was finished by around the age of 16.
Right, and see, that was me when the same thing with mine, especially my hamstring releases and my heel cords and all of that. They did those when I was 10 and 10, 12, and I believe 15 was the last surgery that I had. So you and I were kind of in the same boat.
Yep.
How much, like, and I guess this is a big question here for a lot of people with CP. How much, when you had the surgeries, or one of them or all of them, how much did you have to relearn? How much did it change the way you moved or the way you did things?
Most of the time, quite vastly. That's the whole point of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? The whole point of it is to change your gait and the way you move. So quite commonly, you have to, start back at zero.
Mm-hmm.
And, you already know how to do it, but you're just learning how to do it with new tools.
Right,
so
right. Retraining yourself how to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're, committed and vigilant with it, then that makes a big difference. If you're put off by it, or if you're not dedicated to it, then it might take you a lot longer. So, a lot of that, the knife can only get you so far, and then the rest is kind of up to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that some helped more than others, or did they all help you and do what they were designed to do?
Everything did what it was designed to do according to the goals and the plan that my orthopedic surgeon and myself and my parents,
Mm-hmm.
had in mind. So I wouldn't change it. At the time, some of the things that I had were new.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a little bit of, I guess you'd say, of a gamble there.
Sure.
But in the long run, doing something was better than doing nothing, and
Right.
it all worked out for me.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of mine were, the releases and to loosen some of the tightness and to get some of that spasticity out of there, and they did help. I was in 2 body casts. I had the heel cord releases, hamstrings done. I had the hip adapters done to open my hips up a little bit. So I went through a lot of that. The one, and again, the reason why I ask you about mobility, how much did it change your mobility? You do have to kind of retrain with each medical procedure that you have, but I don't think doctors explain that enough. And I mean, orthopedic surgeons, they seem, and a lot of the ones that I deal with here, or dealt with in my time, I don't know if it happened to you. They explained what was going to happen, but they didn't explain the recovery time, and what it was going to take to get back on your feet. But does yours do that? I mean, how did they present it to you? Did they give you all the facts? Do you feel like were you ready with what you needed?
Yeah, because I had a good support team with
Mm-hmm.
my mom and dad and my brother. And because we had a very good working relationship with my surgeon, I was working in some pretty tight timelines. So we had to be very upfront about expectations
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
rehab and the amount of time that things would take. Because for the most part, I would try to do as much as I could at the end of school, so that I could do the worst of the rehab over the summer, and go back to school in the fall, even if I had to go back temporarily with a wheelchair or a walker.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when you're working on those tight timelines, you really have to broach it from the get-go.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments here. I wanted to get these in because I saw them come in. JP said the issue with waiting, IMO, is that the recovery seemed more difficult. Glad a lot of mine were younger. Michael basically said my procedure every 3 months if needed on the leg and arm at once. And JP said abductors were the worst for him as well. And Jody agreed with you as well. My biggest issue with the operations that I had, one of my biggest ones, was the serial casting. Now, serial casting, what that does for me is they start with your legs in the bent position to where you're sitting in a chair, and then they go out by 20 degrees every week. But they did, and then they put you in a cast for that week and hold your legs at that position to straighten your legs out. But what they didn't tell me was, as my legs got straighter, they were going to 2 weeks, which caused severe muscle spasms, and they hurt really badly. When they were taking the cast off and changing them, it hurt so bad that they had to put sandbags on my legs to keep them down because they wanted to jerk back from where they were. And nobody told me this was going to happen, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I was against serial casting from the get-go because it took away my ability to get on the floor, and that's what I hate. I'm not able to get on the floor anymore. But the great part about it was, I can dress in my chair, I can transfer to the toilet properly, I can stand up, straighter. So there were benefits there. Have you ever experienced the serial casting?
I have. They were early on. Before I even began procedures as a youngster, my doctor went through a series of muscle adjustment where I actually crawled on my hands and knees for a year, and then walked on my knees for a year, specifically so that I could make my core really strong and find balance in my center before they began doing lots of operations on me, the heel cord extensions, abductors, all that good stuff.
Right.
So given that I started with that as the base, there was always a goal to overwork or overbuild whatever muscle set I was going to need for the next procedure.
To train yourself for. That's awesome. See, I kind of wish I would have had that outlook, and because I used to crawl on my hands and knees all the time. I was barrel chested because I used to crawl so much, and my arms and legs were strong, but it was because I was walking on crutches and all that. But what happened was my patellas, which are my kneecaps, actually started to flatten because I was crawling so much, and it pushed my patellas way up. So when they created the serial casting for me, they created what they call a knee window or a patella window for me to massage my patellas back in place, which never worked. So that was something that I had to go through too. Do you find, like, I guess the question I have now is, do you find a lot of problems with arthritis now as you get older?
For the most part, no. I know that will, not be forever, right? But I make a really concentrated effort to stay mobile. And I also make a really concentrated effort to be careful with my weight. So that being the case, I have been lucky, knock on wood so far, that arthritis has not set in, but I anticipate at some point it will.
Yeah, JP basically said that he used to sit in a W sit, which is how I used to sit all the time. That was my main way of sitting. Drove his doctor nuts, drove mine nuts too. Did you use to W sit, Jamie?
I was not allowed to. Obviously, I could very easily, but I was told pretty early on that I shouldn't. So it wasn't something that I did. I also spent several years sleeping in immobilizers, which I don't know if any of you know what those are, but immobilizers are large Velcro and steel, basically bands that go from about the top of your thigh to your ankle that actually keep you completely stretched out while you sleep.
Oh, I hated those things. Oh,
yeah. So having spent several years in those, if somebody told me not to do something, I wasn't gonna do it, because if you do those sorts of things and then put on the mobilizers while you sleep, you're just making it worse for yourself, right? Because those tighten up all sorts of things you're not supposed to tighten up. Didn't do that.
Right. Did you ever go through the moment of, God, I don't want to do this anymore. This is so annoying. If I have to wear one more piece of it, because for me, when I had to wear equipment, because I had to wear the serial casting, and then they wanted to do the arm immobilizers where they straighten out my arms, I looked like Gumby when I went to go to sleep because I was stretched out both ways. Did you ever just go, God, I don't want to do this anymore?
I think, during like the darkest days of rehab, when you're, just starting to get back into things after you've had a big procedure, that it would be unrealistic to say that, you don't have a woe is me day or two. But as time goes on, you learn that if you just do what people tell you to, the more you do, the faster it'll pass, right?
Right.
So that kind of just stuck with me, that, okay, I've done this before, I know I can do it again, and the more I do what I'm supposed to do, the faster I'll get over this. So yes, everybody has those days, and everybody has days where they like to think things are going to be easier. Part of why I chose, and it was a very conscious choice, not to be a parent, had a lot to do with maintaining the physicality that I'd worked so hard for.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
And rolling the dice on that just wasn't something I was willing to do, because I spent a lifetime
working toward
getting where I was.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I just was not, as much as I would have liked to, I was not willing to trade one for the other.
Right. You said you're getting ready to turn the big 40. You don't look 40 at all. I would have said you were like 29 or 30. But what kind of things do you? You're welcome. And I'm being totally real, guys. She doesn't look 40 at all. Go to see Cerebral Palsy Sunrise and check it out. I'm telling you, I don't lie. What kind of things do you struggle with now? As you said, you're getting ready to turn 40. What are the biggest issues you struggle with right now?
Being careful with balance, right? Making sure that you don't take an unanticipated fall or spill that might possibly cause an injury, and just staying loose, not being tight. Stretching and doing the stuff that doesn't feel good. Let's be honest, it doesn't feel good at all.
Right.
But doing the stuff that doesn't feel good so that you can maintain your mobility and your independence. It's a trade-off, right? Nothing that's worth having comes easy, and so there's a lot of people that don't have to carve out time in their day to do physical therapy.
Sure.
That's great for them. But the reality is there are a lot of us that, we have to do it pretty much every day, or at least 6 days a week, if we want to maintain what we have. And I think when you're younger, you can maybe get away with skipping it a little more often. But as you age, you really can't skip it. And if anything, you need to increase it.
I can tell you right now, martial arts has helped me so tremendously, because we got a couple of comments here about weight. Managing weight is such a big deal. JP said that, especially being over 40. Michael talked about, I feel the same way about arthritis. I think I may be getting it in my hips down the line. Nikki agrees. And Jody said, come on, read, DJ. Due to the demanding job I was in, I walked the cartilage out of my hip and bones, and that's the thing that once that cartilage is gone, you can't get it back. Now, you kind of answered my next question. It's amazing. She can see inside my head, guys. It's so empty in there. I was going to ask about therapy for you. So my therapy right now, because I'm dropping some weight. I want to get down a little further. My goal is to get down to about 160, 170, somewhere in there. So you actually take time to do therapy. You said at least 6 times a week, and you block it out in your day?
I do. I block it out of my day. It's not at the same time every day,
Mm-hmm.
since I have a full-time job, it has to move around, but I do block it up. I do try to change it up, the things that I do, so that you don't get bored, or so that it doesn't get too easy. If you follow Cerebral Palsy Sunrise, you'll see that I do a lot of things like plank challenges and posting different adapted workouts from YouTube, like chair yoga and chair fit and all that good stuff. And that's because I'm actually really doing that stuff, you guys. And so that's why I'm sharing it. And I try to find, good stuff that's safe, because I figure if it's safe for me, it's probably safe for a lot of you. And I try to change it up so that I don't get bored, because after 40-some years of physical therapy, it's pretty easy to get bored.
The amazing thing that you said was, I'm actually doing it, guys. I'm actually going through it. So I'm actually sharing it with you because I'm going through it. One of the things that I love about Jaime, like I said, we talk on a regular basis. There's a realism with her that you guys are going to get to see if you go to Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. And she cares about people and what they do and how they feel. It's more than just a group, because there's not, we talked a little bit about this too. There's not a lot of, groups for adults, with cerebral palsy. There's plenty of groups for children, because children are great. And I think those groups are great, but there's not really a lot of different things. I think that really, that she cares so much about people that you're able to go through it and see the experience that she's giving. And I think that, reaching out to people and showing them, hey, this works, try this. I think it would be a great, a great opportunity for you guys to go check out Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. Can you talk just a little bit about Cerebral Palsy Sunrise, Jaime, if you would, and tell our viewers what it's about?
Sure. So Cerebral Palsy Sunrise started in November of 2019. I created the page in June, around the time of my birthday last year, but I posted the first video in November because it took me some time to kind of think about if I was going to build a community, what would I want it to be and what would I want it to look like. So I spent a lot of time looking at other pages and other communities, both for cerebral palsy and other disabilities, and then kind of took a little of my own special sauce and some of the best of what I thought I saw out there, and kind of jammed them all together, and Cerebral Palsy Sunrise was born. So it is specifically a community for adults with CP and the people who love them. We do have family members, siblings, and caregivers that are welcome to join. But the majority of our participants are adults with CP, and we specify that as 18 and over. Mm-hmm. There are just a handful, fewer than 4, that are slightly under 18.
Right.
But the majority is 18 or over, and the ones that are under 18 are either just recent high school graduates where they're on their way to college, or we do have one participant that's 2 participants that are there being chaperoned with their parents.
Sure, and that is so great, because especially with the ones that are getting ready to turn 18 or getting ready to go to college, it's nice to have somewhere to start off and to have that interaction, because I love the fact how you help people and you say, look, if you have a problem with this, let me know. Let me see if we can help, you find what you need. I talk about this with Miss Winnie. I've talked about this with you. It is so awesome and so powerful and so real to have a support group of people that care about you when you struggle, because the struggle is real and everybody goes through it. And that's what we need to remember. But the thing is, we're not alone, and we don't have to be or feel like we're alone because of our CP. And Jaime allows Cerebral Palsy Sunrise to reach the world over. They're over 500 members. It is a fantastic, fantastic group. I am very, very, very close with a lot of the people, and very fast. I mean, too, because they grow on you. You don't get lost with CP Sunrise, man. They check on you. They want to know where you're at and how you're doing and how you're feeling.
Yeah, we really are an online family. Most of us are virtual because we live all throughout the U.S. and Canada. But we do our best to get together, rain or shine, pretty much every week. And we have a pretty regular schedule of events and posts. And I try to have, as many different voices as possible. That's why I brought on co-moderators such as yourself and Jody, to try and make sure that, we fully represent, adults with CP, so that the viewpoints aren't just mine. It started with mine because you got to start somewhere.
Sure.
But as we grow, I try to include, more and more people that have different viewpoints. And when I say different viewpoints, I mean at different stages of their life, in different stages of mobility, different stages of employment, just all those sorts of things, because CP is different for everyone, right? So even though we all have the same thing, none of us have the same experience.
Exactly.
It's all different.
That is so well said. And I was going to say the diversity of people. That's the understanding, because you have some that are verbal, some that are nonverbal, some that can walk, some that can't, some that use different equipment, some that horseback ride, some that it's all, you get a little bit of everything, and it makes it better. Now, I've got a question here from JP again, and I want to go back up to this because this is a great question. Got a couple more as I've been running my mouth here. Do you need help with the PT? Most of the stretches I physically cannot do without help. It's frustrating.
So for me, I am lucky enough that for the majority, I can do 90%, right, on my own. So 90 is better than not doing it at all. If you get with the right physical therapist, they can show you appropriate ways to stretch yourself using the weight of your own body and the resistance of the floor and chairs and couches and towels and you name it. There's lots of ways to stretch yourself, even if it's using a certain piece of equipment like a stationary bike or something that may pull your muscles in different directions than you would, do normally, that kind of thing. So I will say, it's not a perfect science, but if you take the time to, get with a few good physical therapists, almost everyone can at least do some sort of routine at home. You may have to follow it up with, some professional intervention, but you should be able to do some sort of routine at home that at least keeps you more viable for when you do go to the physical therapist. But it's not easy, and you have to be tough, because the reality is you're signing up to hurt yourself, right? So you really have to be tough about it and be honest and say, well, if it's not hurting, it's probably not doing anything. Right?
My martial arts instructor always said a little bit of pain is not a bad thing. You don't want you don't want to have like so much pain that you can't move, but a little bit of pain means you're doing it right. Correct.
Yeah, a little bit of pain means you're on the right track, and even if it's just that you find one or two moves, toe touches or stretches. that you can do on your own. Maybe wrapping a towel around a chair or a table leg or whatever you need to do to build that resistance that you can pull against, especially if you're really tight.
Yeah.
The more you do that, and on the more regular basis you do that, the easier it'll get, and then before you know it, the more things you'll be able to try. So, don't eat the whole elephant, take it in chunks, and there's lots of people out there to help you. Lots of professionals that if you start calling around and be willing to give you an hour of their time to help you out, and sometimes free of charge. So,
yeah.
But you just have to be honest and say, I'm an adult with CP, and I'm looking for help. And you'll find the right audience if you really are dedicated to getting some help. Sure.
That is a great point. Now, Michael asked about, what about jiu-jitsu? Now, I know there is a person that works out on CP Cerebral Palsy Sunrise, and he's a trainer and an athletics coach, and he's also in jiu-jitsu very well, I might add. His name is Brandon Ryan, and he's a fantastic individual. Go and again, CP Sunrise has all this information, guys. If you're interested, go check this out. You will find so much vital information for this, for all these questions that we've talked about today that Jaime has answered so eloquently. I thought I was going to, be able to stump her pretty easily, but it just doesn't happen. She's too smart for me. JP says, my old physical therapist, when I had insurance, used to have me spend 30 minutes stretching themselves before I showed up for my appointment. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. All right, now we've talked about this a little bit, and I want to kind of get it because I want to see where she goes with this. Now, you don't seem to get very angry often, okay? But when you get frustrated, and I know you do, because everybody does, how do you deal with it? What do you do to get away from it or to lose it when it really sticks? I mean, when it's like, I've got to deal with this, but you can't necessarily fix it. How do you deal with it?
Well, because of the demands of my regular day-to-day life, I have to make time for it, right? I don't have the ability to just fall apart because I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to, do what's asked of me, and then, find a time when I can deal with it. And that dealing with it might be listening to a book and spending some time in my garden. It might be, listening to some heavy music. It might be, working out just really hard until I sweat and then feel better. It just depends on your mood and the weather outside and how tired you are when you got pissed off, right? The more tired you are when you're upset, the more you're going to lean towards the distraction mode of I'll distract myself with a book, or I'll distract myself with this or that. And the less tired you are, the more you might go for the physical mode of, I'm going to distract myself with a really good workout, or, something a little more physical. And that's kind of how I handle it. Everybody has, good days and bad days, but I kind of, early on, there's a movie called Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks and several other people.
Great
where
movie.
There's a spy, I want to say he's possibly Russian, and one of his quotes, it's a true story, but one of his quotes in the movies is, "Would it help?" And when I saw that movie and heard that quote, I just was mesmerized, because that's kind of what I'd been telling myself since about the time I was 9 years old was,
mm-hmm.
Okay, you can go do that. You can go have a fit or get ticked off or whatever it is that you're going to do, but is it really going to help? And
wow.
The answer is 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really help. So everybody has it, you do it, but I think the more you can channel it into other stuff, the better off you'll be, because it doesn't really help. You can't fix it. And getting upset about it isn't going to make it go away, and it's not going to be better. So, I try to keep it to a minimum when I can.
Mm-hmm. All right, I've got 2 more questions for you, and as I said, you've knocked every single one of them out of the park. We're going to take a couple minutes with Jaime so she can tell you how to locate her, how to find her, how to contact her. But the question I want to ask you now is, how do you feel about the word can't, and what do you do when someone tells you you can't do something?
I don't think can't is a bad word. Can't is just as important as can. We wouldn't be the people that we are if there were some things that we couldn't do. So I don't see it as a bad word. I think it's just as necessary as can. I see it as kind of the yang and the balance to it. If someone tells me that I can't do something that I think I can, then I'm still going to attempt it. But even I myself know my own limitations and know there are things that I cannot do. I cannot stand on a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
No amount of determination is going to change that. Maybe only a bungee cord and being tied to a ship anchor is going to allow me to stand on a ladder,
mm-hmm.
right? So can't is not a bad word. I think, we sometimes set unrealistic goals for ourselves by not properly analyzing where our strengths are
mm-hmm.
and aiming for those strengths rather than just constantly trying to prove people wrong.
Sure.
Don't be in a race to prove people wrong. Be in a race to do the best that you can do for you. And if that happens to prove people wrong along the way, great. But if the only reason you're doing things is to prove to other people that you can do it, then it's probably not a good use of your time.
I don't believe I've ever heard that described that way in my entire life. If you could have seen the expression on my face when you answered that question, oh my God, that was a dynamic answer, Miss Jamie. Really,
Well, a part of the reason why we make a good team on Cerebral Palsy Sunrise is we don't exactly have all the same viewpoints,
mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm. Man.
So
my mom always said, can't is too lazy to try. And I agree with that. When somebody tells me I can't do something, I don't want to look and say I automatically can't do it. Like you said, I want to attempt it, or at least, but I'm in the habit of proving them wrong. And I guess that's just my determination, or maybe it's stubbornness too. I don't know, but I've always.
But who are you? But are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it just to stick it to the man?
I think it's
do better.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I'm doing it for myself, and I'm sticking it to him, to be honest, because I don't like being told no. But I mean, that's that does make sense, and I do agree with a lot of what you say. Wow, that was a heck of a way to really kind of spin that, and that's not a way that's ever been approached to me before. That's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I kind of live on a philosophy of you really want to go towards the yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because the more yeses you go towards, the more yeses you're going to get, and so that's probably really good. So if I can't stand on ladders, I'm probably not going to set the goal to have a house painting business.
Yeah.
Does that mean I couldn't? No.
Right.
But
right.
Is that the best way and most efficient way for me to spend the limited amount of physical energy that I have in a day? No. So, I really look at it from how can I be efficient and how can I be effective.
Okay. Last question, and we definitely want to get your information on how to get in contact with you and how to find you, because that's important. What do you feel, or do you feel that you've reached your greatest achievement yet? What do you feel your greatest achievement is? And if you haven't reached it, what do you want it to be?
Well, I sure as heck hope not, because if I had reached my greatest achievement at 40 years old, the remaining 40 or 50 years is going to be pretty darn boring. So I hope I haven't. I hope there's something, greater on the horizon. As far as, what have I done so far? I think, just being the best me I can be, the best Jamie I can be, the best sister, wife, friend, auntie, group leader, you know, trying to do my best to be, you know, the best version of me. That's probably my greatest accomplishment, because, you know, it's hard to be yourself when you have disability. There's a lot of roadblocks, a lot of opinions, a lot of setbacks.
Wow.
So, you know, if I had to say, you know, what was my greatest accomplishment, I guess so far it would be, you know, finding myself early and being consistent with it. But I certainly hope that there's more to come. I don't know what that is yet. I'm certainly in that midlife crisis stage where I'm searching for it. Cerebral Palsy Sunrise was a passion project derived from that. So I don't know what that is yet, but you know, it keeps me waking up to keep looking.
Well, this has been an awesome episode. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this good. Guys, should we do a part 3? Do I sense a series coming on? I mean, goodness gracious, this was powerful. Jamie, I want to thank you again for being on the show. Jamie, would you give out your contact information, just how to get a hold of you, so we can actually do that?
Just go to Facebook, look up Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. There's also all the episodes of the ABCs of Cerebral Palsy on YouTube, but all the action happens on the main page on Facebook. You can also look me up on Facebook. My last name is spelled A-D-E. So if you Google Jamie Aid, I will pop up. So join us on Facebook. You'll find me there.
Now, you said you have a YouTube as well. What is your YouTube, Jamie?
So the YouTube is Jamie Aid, but you'll see that it has the Cerebral Palsy Sunrise logo.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in to My CP Does Not Define Me. We want to thank our very special guest for this week. I think we will have her back again. I love talking with her. She's so awesome. She does so many great things for so many people. I can't say enough about her. If you guys want to, view the show, it's on Facebook Live. It's on www.letgoradio, and it's also going to be on my YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me. So be sure to subscribe to that. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can email me at that's not the email. Sorry, that was a cough. CarterDJ85@gmail.com or the Sports Minion Radio Show at yahoo.com. You can reach me on Facebook at DJ Carter or Dennis Carter. You can email me. You can message me. You can Facebook me. You can leave me a message on YouTube. You can yell at me really loudly. I promise you I will get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And please join us again next week for My CP Does Not Define Me at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. I am D to the J with the roll away, and my special guest, Jamie Aid of Cerebral Palsy Sunrise. Please go check out this page. It is phenomenal. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be there. But guess what? It is. I tell you, thank you so much for being with us, Jamie. Guys, we'll see you next week. 2 up, 2 down. See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.